Hello. It's your girl, Zany Nicole from the Happy Hour Report, where we always give it to you straight, no chaser. And I have the pleasure of introducing to you all some young, black, successful young men who have cultivated and created this digital platform in the form of a podcast known as the Hentations.
Thank you for having
us.
Hello,
how y'all doing? Welcome.
Good.
Thank you for all the pleasantries, telling us we successful and all that.
We trying.
We appreciate that. That's always good. Thank you.
Making me blush. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm definitely happy to have you all today. So let's just get right into it. We're going to start off with a little bit of bio information on who you are, and then we'll move into some other things. So if you want to start, feel free.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Darian,
Make sure you get
aka Clark Kent. That's Clark_Kent on Instagram and Twitter. And so you just want to know what we do.
Yeah, like I know y'all all got degrees. Y'all went to school.
Right.
Where are you from?
Mm-hmm. So I went to University of Maryland. Go Terps. Terps in the house. And I'm currently going for my master's right now at American University, public policy. Working in DC government right now, but I'm here with my bros doing this Hentations Podcast. This is something we're all very passionate in, and something that kind of came naturally. Like it's something that we do is start off as a hobby. We talking with each other, but kind of floating to something bigger. Potentially can grow bigger. So this is something I'd like to see grow a lot bigger than what it is. But so yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Malik.
Well, my name is Malik Parkman, aka They Be Geeking League on Twitter and IG. I'm from the DMV, of course. I went to school at Towson University, political science major. Currently work for Enterprise, branch manager in DCA Airport. Great opportunity to join my brothers in the Hentations. It provides us an outlet to talk about any topic that comes to young professional or anything of that nature. So I'm excited, man, about the future with these guys, and I'm excited to see what's in store for us.
Man, that was a real professional answer, man. You gave a shout out to your branch. I respect that. It's me, man. It's Dante, aka I'm Rudy Donnie. The Twitter name's a little different. I keep that more professional. But so I'm Rudy Donnie. Went to Maryland like Darian from the DMV, Prince George's County. I'm a communications guy, do some strategic communication stuff. So the interview stuff, this is fun for me. I enjoy this right now. But so we here, Hentations. We enjoy our podcast. We do our thing.
And they have a fourth member who is not here with us today. Mr. Aaron Coleman is the fourth member of the Hentations.
AKA Shut Up Cole. Gotta make sure I shut up Cole.
Shut up Cole.
And we'll put his information.
We'll put a little lower third right here. It'll be good. Right here on the invisible spot.
So let's just jump right into it. So, Hentations Podcast, what does that mean? I mean, let's just address the elephant in the room. What does it mean? Is it an acronym? What does it stand for? I mean, what is that, what is Hentations? When you think of that, when you want people to hear that, or when you on social media and people are following you and you have viewers and you have supporters, what do you want them to think, or what does it mean? So, just give us a little something.
My bro Malik came up with the name Hentations, but I think the thinking behind it was something that we had called ourselves like coming out of high school, and just being like a group of smooth gentlemen, young black gentlemen. So kind of think the Temptations a little bit. We all love that movie. Going back, I think everybody we know that.
Right.
Love that Temptations. We always compared ourselves to the Temptations, including Aaron. So combining that with our drink of choice, whenever we kind of talk shop or just chill and kick it like and talk. Our drink of choice is Hennessy, of course. We drink other things, of course, but so combining Hennessy with the Temptations, that kind of got you the Hentations. So it's kind of how it all came together, and he really kind of just spit it out, and it sounded perfect. So he's like, "Oh, that's it."
That's crazy, man. We were in I don't remember where we were at. We were definitely at a party or a club, and we we had a good time. You know, we were just dancing, especially when we
I think
you
it
know.
was two-step or something.
Yeah, like it was actually might have been a Temptation song.
It was crazy. We were dancing, and I was like, man, like we're really flowing. Like this, you know, obviously we had a couple drinks, you know, and this is the next day because you know, obviously in group chats with your friends, like ever since you can add a group chat name, like it's always wild stuff out there. And I was just like, something just popped in my head, and I was just like, it's been a while since we changed the name, so I was like, Hentations, and it's just stuck from there, man. So. Just something, you know.
Awesome. And so y'all have just encompassed Hentations and what it means to you personally, and definitely what you want to share with others. So I guess I would say you said it was a collective kind of collaboration as far as coming up with the concept, coming up with the name. I mean, you have people that, you know, contribute a little bit more than others, but essentially making those big decisions, y'all all kind of came together to cultivate that, and you know that's where that emerged from. So do y'all have any difficulties, since it is 4 of you all, and so y'all have, you know, different opinions, different perspectives? Is it a little bit, I mean, is it kind of what's the word, I guess, jumping through hoops just to kind of make sure you guys are all on the same page? Or since you've been friends and so long and y'all almost like family, so to speak, does it just, you know, everything just comes natural, y'all all usually on the same page? You know, how does that work?
I mean, I would say like with anything where you have to get 4 people on the same page, there are difficulties, or there are times when it's like, we recording something and like Aaron does a lot of like I guess Aaron will be our quote unquote engineer. So Aaron will be the one who will like end up making some editing choices when we're like doing the podcast like that. There may be things that Aaron gets rid of, whereas like 3 of us may be like, nah, we don't really want to get rid of that. So things like that, there are like disagreements in terms of that. Not big or anything like that, but it's like sometimes we do have disagreements on that. But we always say like our biggest strength is the fact that there are 4 of us and we're all so different. We're extremely versatile. So it's like we don't consider it to be a difficulty in most moments. We actually consider that to be a really good thing because we can hit you from multiple POVs and all that type of stuff. Like we know a lot of things and we can talk about a lot of different things. So we actually consider that to be a blessing rather than a curse when it's like 4 of us.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of helps with that, we kind of take the time to communicate and talk like before and after, like when the episode has already kind of been recorded, and say, hey, I don't really like this part. I didn't like the way I sounded in this part, or my viewpoint could be considered controversial. So we talk that stuff out, and we kind of go with the majority. You kind of have to with the group of this size. So I think that's the one thing that really helps to make sure that our content's on point, so that we're not kind of arguing with each other. We like you said, we've known each other for years, since like middle school. So like being able to have that open communication helps.
Okay. And I noticed you said some controversial topics, or something that can be considered controversial. Do you all stay away from certain topics? Do you kind of shy away from things that could maybe, you know, rile people up in a negative way? Or are you kind of open to, you know, just attacking what interests you, what's popular, what's trendy? How do you come up with your topics? Is it something where you're just writing it down, or y'all just throwing them out in kind of sort of a think tank? How do you kind of, you know, develop your topics?
We definitely want to. We kind of want to strike a balance, because our whole concept is kind of having a conversation, just kind of like how you have with your friends. So that's how we started, like having these conversations, like before we recorded, and then we kind of just threw in a mic in there. But when we're putting out like our message to the public, we want to make sure that we're politically correct in what we say. Like we don't want to necessarily avoid any topics, but how we talk about some of these topics, like especially, so say for example, if we're talking about something that women go through, for example, we're all 4 guys, so we can't give like a full perspective, so we're very sensitive to that. So just making sure we go, nobody says anything too far. We check each other, even on the podcast. Sometimes, like, whether it's just a simple nudge or like changing the subject. So try to keep it clean, but also at the same time make it comfortable enough to have like a regular conversation. Don't feel like
be relatable.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, I think you definitely, you know, like struck the nail on the head pretty much with it is. Like, we don't shy away from controversial like topics. But I mean, again, it's just like really just talking shop and just being real. I think the biggest thing is that you gotta just know your audience in a way. Like you gotta have with this type of platform, you have a responsibility in a way. You can't just go out there and just say whatever you want in that regard. Like we have, you know, our audience based from, you know, teens to kids to our parents. So I can't be on the podcast talking about all that but I can still be organic and still come from the heart, but you can do it the right way. So that's the biggest thing, is that we understand the responsibility that we have with our voice, and we want to use it in a positive and uplifting platform.
That's definitely another benefit of being four of us, where it's like, oh, I may not have thought something of what I said, but it's like, we all like understand things different perspectives. So it's like somebody may be like, oh, you probably shouldn't have said that. You didn't want to word this that way. So we probably may just end up cutting that out. Okay. That's something that we discover a lot. So there are lots of things that are left on the cutting room floor sometimes, because we probably don't want to put that out there because I don't want to seem like I have an opinion. That's not the way I want to do it.
And you kind of just learn from it. You learn from it. You're like, Dante was right. I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't even think about that. And it just becomes a learning experience for you as we continue to do.
It becomes natural.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So I noticed that you said you want to appeal to multiple audiences. You're obviously on a public platform, so anybody can come across your page and your digital media platforms, different platforms. So do you have a target audience? Is there an audience that you are thinking, maybe I want to kind of matriculate into that space, to maybe appeal to women? You said since it is for guys, some topics are a little bit more off limits, so to speak. What's your plans as far as maybe some new audiences you want to break into?
No, I was gonna say definitely what you said about women. That is one thing where it's like we do want to appeal more to women. So like a thing that we've just been kicking around for like the longest time, probably like since we've been doing this podcast like a few weeks now, like we need to definitely get a woman to just, even if we don't like add one to the hosting staff, it's like, oh, let's get women that we may know who have like really good points, who are really well spoken and could handle doing a podcast, something like that. Let's just bring somebody in so we can definitely get a difference of opinion so that we can discuss some of these topics and like not have such a surface level view, because like he said earlier, it's like, what you said, I forgot. But it's just like, we don't want it to be like, oh, okay, we can't talk about women's issues because we're not women. It's like, oh, we want to have women there so that we can address certain topics in a respectful manner. So I know that's definitely
and be inclusive.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And just to kind of build on that, like as far as a target audience, like we definitely want to obviously relate to our age group, mid-20s, and also like for the people who are coming up under us as well, kind of since we're going through certain stages of life and certain experiences, we want to be able to kind of come back with some advice or some steps on how to navigate through this, because I know like mid-20s is a very stressful time for a lot of people, so even for our age group directly. But we also, like, we're talking about anything from music to politics, so like having that natural conversation, so naturally that involves some older age groups as well who may be interested in the album that just dropped, or may be interested in the political debate that came out. So yeah, definitely it's definitely focused with our age group and younger, but we take in all age groups.
We're trying to hit that 18 to 30 demographic for sure, but we'll take everything else along the way.
So that's your main audience, that 18 to 30.
That'll probably be the best. Yeah, we going 18 to 30 all the time. Right?
But if 31, 40,
you resonate with it.
My dad told me he listened like every week. He say, I don't really understand what y'all talking about half the time, to be honest with you, but I listen. Yeah. He finds humor in it sometimes too. So I mean, 50 plus, if y'all want to listen, that's fine.
And there's some older people. There's some older people who like kind of hearing a younger perspective. Like it's almost like the typical barbershop or kind of talk.
Do you think that creates a challenge though when you're trying to, kind of bridge the gap between generational sides and, trying to relate to your parents in a way where you're still being organic and true to yourself, but just bring them in as far as the verbiage and just how you're kind of structuring things? Do you think that creates kind of a little bit of difficulty since your target audience is that 18 to 30 primarily? Do you think that when you try to, seek outside of that kind of realm, that it could be a little bit difficult just because you have that mindset and perspective of being in your 20s, because that's what you are. How do you kind of go about that?
It could be challenging for sure. There's certain things that, like you say, even down to how we speak and our verbiage that we use. Like, it's some things that can be lost in translation with older audiences, or some people who are older who have more of a conservative way of looking at things than we might have. There might be some difference of opinion, but one thing that we kind of embrace that in a sense, because having a conversation is how you kind of get to the bottom of some of these issues. Like, a lot of people will avoid the conversations just because it's somebody with a different viewpoint. But we
Right.
want to, like, even within the podcast, we have different kind of opinions on things, and that sometimes comes out in the podcast. Sometimes it gets a little passionate, but yeah. So that's something we kind of learn to embrace. But like I said before, as far as addressing that, we are sensitive to who. Like that, sometimes it might be an older person listening, or
Right.
sometimes it might be a certain demographic who might be listening that we should be kind of respective of.
Yeah.
Another thing that helps is that we definitely try to talk about like universal topics. A lot of things that we talk about are things that you could relate to no matter what age you are.
What are some of the topics?
Well,
Is
like-
music? Is it trend? You know,
It's a lot of things like music, like you're saying. It's a lot of trendy things basically on social media. But then it's like sometimes we see something on social media. Like remember, like a few weeks ago, you were talking about basically how like Chris Brown interacts with his exes, how Diddy was interacting with, how Diddy basically treated everything at the Kim Porter died. So things like that, we talk about ex interaction. We had a whole conversation about like, yo, how do you interact with your exes? What is proper? What is proper ex etiquette, as we call it? How do you do that type of stuff? And that's something that's like, no matter if you're 15 or 50, everybody's trying to think, all right, I have an ex here. How do I talk to this person? Or how do I like address these situations? How to address the topic? And that's something that we definitely feel like, oh, okay, no matter how old you are, who you are, what color you are, this is something that applies to everybody because everybody has questions about that. But like, yeah, to answer your question in general, we literally talk about anything and everything. We had like a 10-minute conversation about Dino Spumoni from Hey Arnold. It didn't make any sense. We don't really know why we talked about it, to be honest with you, but the whole episode is called Dino Spumoni. We talked about old basketball players from the 1950s. We talk about Lil Wayne because he loved Lil Wayne. We talk about basically anything that we could think of, anything that's important. We can tell you why it's important for you to go vote this year. Like, we don't try to limit ourselves or put ourselves in any pocket. We can literally touch on anything, and it doesn't matter how deep the situation may be, or just like if it's like something that's like has brevity to it.
Right.
We like to just talk about anything and everything. Like this podcast is like a view into our group chat. You don't know what you may see, but it's gonna be like some type of conversation about it regardless, and everybody has an opinion.
Right. And as far as like the topics go, like we do kind of like look at the current events that's going on and kind of lay out like a list of topics that we want to cover. But at the same time, like I said before, we want to make sure it's like a conversation too.
Right.
So if certain things we don't reach or certain things don't really flow into it, like we kind of openly talk about, do we want to talk about this right now? Like we already talking about this, let's stick with this. So we want to keep it kind of like a natural conversation that you would have with your friends, not just with guys, with girls as well.
Do you have like follow-up episodes? So say if you start, you know, on one topic, but you felt like maybe it was something that didn't fit, you know, or you thought of other things that you kind of could tack on. Do you go and have like a part 2 or, you know, is that, you know, kind of dragging it out? You kind of just seal it in one episode, or how do y'all structure y'all kind of timeline?
Well, no, I mean, we've had thought about going back and like retouching on topics, but I think some of the things that which you just touched on actually, something that does happen a lot with us. It's like we may like start up a conversation where it's like, I remember last time we talked about what we thought were like cool guys in hip hop, basically people whose music doesn't matter anymore, but they're cool people. So it's like, they're still important. So we basically started a conversation about that on like the podcast before the most recent one. And then we continued that conversation in the most recent episode. So it's one of those things where typically we may try to think about going back to a topic where it's like if something happens and there's a change in the situation or something has developed, we may go back. But just in general, the main reason that we will choose to go back will be like, oh, we ran out of time for something, so let's go back and try to tack this on another place here. If we still think it's relevant the next week. So sometimes it may come back and the next week there may be like 3 or 4 important things that we see are really important. Like we had like A$AP Rocky on our list to talk about for a couple weeks. And it just didn't happen because we found other topics that just kind of happened like in between when we were filming that we just kind of felt like, oh, okay, no offense, this is kind of more entertaining. Or it's like something may come to a resolution and it's like, oh, okay, well, once it's resolved, it really kind of isn't that fun to talk about anymore. Not isn't as fun to talk about, but it's like the situation's kind of over now. So it's like, it's moving.
You don't want to revisit it and drag it out.
Yeah.
Like, why are you talking about old
It's already gone. Exactly.
Okay. My next question would be, so as far as your audience is concerned, do you all get a lot of feedback? Are there people who, you know, say, oh, wow, I really like this episode, but here's some topics I want to see you talk about? Maybe it's negative feedback. Maybe people just straight up just didn't like your opinion. It didn't sit well with them. They may have gotten offended. I mean, I know that's a big thing with podcasts and just people who are on media platforms in general. Everybody's not going to take to you.
Right.
So how do you kind of deal with that? Maybe it's negative feedback or a difference of opinions as far as feedback is concerned from your viewers?
I mean, I think the biggest thing when we first started out, of course, because it was our first podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, then we
did have our little podcast.
Dante,
Me and Aaron had two podcasts at one point.
But when we first started out, one of the biggest things that we got feedback was that we struggle with kind of like talking over each other, which is a big thing with having a group, especially when you're excited and
anxious,
just like that. But yeah, like we you know what I'm saying? It's just stuff like that. With some real big feedback. Kind of having a pre-show to talk about topics so we can sound more clear and concise. And our podcast was a huge thing that we got, and stuff like that. Helped us get to where we are now, where we want to continue to go.
So that was also more so in the beginning, when it was like a little bit more grassroots. And so now, do you feel like you've taken that feedback and you've taken that those opinions and kind of ran with them as far as like, okay, let me use this as constructive criticism, to really improve. And so now, do you see your progression from day one to today?
Man, it's I don't want to say it's night and day because that would mean that it was terrible, but like it was
terrible. But the early part of anything is always it's always more difficult.
I mean, 100%. You know what I'm saying? Like the feedback that we got from friends and families and viewers helped us a ton, man. And I just want to definitely say like that is opportunity. Like thank you for that. And you just gotta take feedback. You gotta take it and and apply it, and we definitely have seen improvements with that. So we continue to take it on.
Yeah, definitely.
That's something we definitely want to continue to do too, because we're still relatively new in this space. So it's something that we like. Even like Malik said, we are fortunate to have like friends and family that kind of tune in and say, "Hey, his mic was off a little bit, or I can't really hear the sound, or some feedback." Sometimes we forget to turn the AC off, and you hear the AC in the background. So having that like is something that we've like embracing, something we want to continue to embrace going forward, because the bigger we get, the more we're opening ourselves up to feedback that we weren't exposed to before. Random people say, "Hey, I don't like this." Like, like one topic, I think we were just talking about the Jay-Z NFL thing. Like, we had like a comment on our YouTube or a thumbs down because they didn't agree. Like, so we're definitely open to that. We're open to having those conversations and embracing that feedback.
Are you comfortable with knowing that everybody's not going to like your content? Have you accepted, that you're going to get a thumbs down, you're going to get, a paragraph under your comment with somebody with an opposing opinion? Have you gotten to the point where, I know you said you all are still new, but have you gotten to the point where you understand, okay, this is only the beginning, and so I need to understand that this is just the way things are set up, and so down the line, I'm not getting defensive, I'm not, Twitter fingers, I'm just taking it for what it is. It's okay, we can agree to disagree, and we can move forward.
So I think with that is, it kind of goes along the lines of what we, like, just being more responsible about what you say. As long as you're not it's okay to have different opinions. Like, we have them, people are going to have them, so it makes the world go round. But the thing about it is, as long as you're being respectful, and as long as, we're being, I guess, not offensive to, the subject, and that's why, again, like, we check each other and we give each other feedback. That comes, and then with that comes dialogue, and it could be something that we see and we're like, man, like, boy, homegirl got a good point. Like, that's, like, guys, look at that. Like, maybe we need to look into that, in terms of for our next podcast.
Right.
Like, maybe we shouldn't take it that way. Maybe we should look at a different angle. And you just got to take it, you got to roll with the punches. And again, like I said, as long as you're respectful, as long as we're being respectful, it comes with the territory at this point.
Right. And I was just going to say that, even just with you saying, you're looking at other people and you're like, okay, that kind of jogged some memory or kind of made me look at things a different way. Do you all find inspiration in other podcasts? Have you looked at other podcasts even before maybe, the inception of Hentations? Did you kind of do your research and kind of peruse through some other podcasts to kind of get an idea of what angle you wanted to go with, or maybe even find some inspiration of some sort?
Oh, no, what I was gonna say was just, in general, we never tried to copy off anything, just in general, because like, it's very easy if you listen to podcasts, just basically have like things that you have saved up in your mind from another podcast, just kind of
like a copy and paste kind of thing.
Yeah, you just like do something like that from you're on the mic, you're like, oh, I shouldn't say that. That's on another podcast list, so I didn't need to do that. But like in general, for us, we do all this in different types of things, and I think like one of the things that I would say like kind of struck us immediately when we were like trying to get our podcast together, we looked at like probably like the Joe Budden podcast, and the main reason that we looked at that, I guess, would just strictly be because they have 4 people, and like you said, like how does that go when you have 4 people? A lot of podcasts are like 2 people jobs. They have 4, and so we just kind of like the way that you involve 4 people's opinions and everything. Now, we couldn't copy them completely because we can't make a 3-hour podcast.
And Joe Budden's kind of controversial.
And he's controversial. You got to be okay with touching certain topics. That's what I say. You're not controversial, but we're okay with touching certain topics.
Right.
You know, and again, we're okay with feedback, you know, if it's constructive and we're learning. That part too. So we're definitely, so from that perspective, we learned that, we can talk about most anything, but we do have to be responsible in what we're saying, and we do have to be ready for any, not consequences, but, just be ready for any dialogue that maybe started based off what you say. And we definitely wanted to just incorporate 4 people into it. So that's what we just tried to look at when we first started, was just like the technical aspect of that, the mechanics behind it. It's like, oh, okay, we have 4 people. How does everybody get adequate time to make sure that they're voicing their opinions and show who they are? Because we're the sum of our parts. We want everybody to know everything. Like all 4 of us have different opinions. We want you to be able to tune in if you're like, oh, I want to hear what Malik has to say about a topic, or oh, I want to hear what Darian has to say. So we definitely try to get as much of that in as possible. But I guess that would be like our one template that I would say we may have others subconsciously, but that would be the one that we definitely
stick to.
And as far as outside of that, just kind of catching like flow in between times, because sometimes we can go on tangents as ideas.
Trying to streamline it and reel it back in.
Right. Or you may tune in one week, you may hear some of the worst transitions you've ever heard before, where it's like, I may just be like, yo, did y'all hear about this? And it's like, that didn't even flow with our conversation. So it's like, those things.
We're learning, be patient.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so because if you label a episode a certain thing, let's just say music in the DMV, and you get to the point where in the conversation, which happens naturally, you segue away, you kind of go off on a tangent. How do you, is it in the editing process where you kind of go and scale back? Because I mean, if I'm clicking on something that says DMV music, and then we're talking about Trump somewhere in there. It's like, how did we get to this point? So how do you, the editing is the biggest thing where y'all can kind of go back and like, okay, let's, rope it back in and really make sure that everything is making sense.
Yeah. To help with that, as far as like, because we have a YouTube page as well. As far as like, instead of posting the full episodes like some podcasts do, we kind of post out specific clips of the topics that we discuss, and kind of in order to like avoid that, like, hey, this says this, but you guys are talking about all this other stuff. So kind of being more targeted in what we're putting out there. As far as the podcast as a whole, we named the podcast after we finish the episode. So kind of sometimes it does embody with the whole episode. Sometimes it's the most catchy thing we said during the episode. So it can be a array of things. But as far as like with the YouTube specifically, we kind of keep it pieced out. And it's something that we're looking to grow as well. Like as far as like when we post episodes, kind of posting a description of what we're talking about at each time or
timestamps and stuff.
Different times.
We're definitely trying to improve on.
Okay. So let's kind of get into you all's personal a little bit more. Let's bring it back around. I know you all said your bios in the beginning. You obviously have a college degree. You have a number of different things going on. How do you balance full-time work, relationships, family, as well as, making sure that we're still keeping the content going and there's no, empty moments or dry months? How do you balance all of that? Because, I mean, you're in your 20s, so quite naturally, we're always on the go. And we get, 5 to 8 hours of sleep, if that. So I would just say, how do you kind of find that balance?
It's definitely a balance. Man, I'm currently, like I said before, I'm currently pursuing my master's. So doing that and working full time has been a challenge. But one thing about this podcast, and balancing this, like I said before, we always kind of had these conversations, and we see each other often as well. We're all still in the DMV and would talk. So like with adding a mic, it doesn't necessarily feel like another thing we have to do. It's more so just we chilling out with each other. Sometimes we go out afterwards, essentially. So like it doesn't really feel like too much work, and I think that's one thing that helps us stay motivated. Like I know they always say find a job that doesn't really feel like work or that you're passionate about, so it doesn't feel like work. That's one thing I can honestly say about this. Hopefully the goal is, as we progress, hopefully in this space and other spaces too, like we won't have to juggle as many things. We can spend more time just doing the podcast, which we all enjoy, dedicate more time to this. So
I think the other thing that helps is that like we're all around to like give each other a boost if need be. Like one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, well, so Darian's in school, he may be like, oh, yo, I got finals or something like that. You could finals, right? No, so like, no, he may have like an exam code or something like that, or like something he has spent time on. So it's like, oh, okay. Darian usually does like the social media promo videos. He puts those together. So if he has something to do, then it's like, all right, I can step in and I can like make these videos. Like it's not to say it's not hard, but you know, it's like it's doable. Like I mean, more than one person can do it, so I can definitely help out. So it's like we're always around to help each other out, and then like we always do like try to talk about, all right, let's try to have just some blank, just evergreen conversations just about topics that aren't like necessarily like in the media. Just like you said about like ex etiquette and stuff like that. Let's try to have these type of conversations sitting around so that if it's like, oh, okay, we're on vacation for this month, we could still put something out where it's like, oh, here, take this bonus content where it's like, oh, okay, we have this extra video here. Or where it's just like, try to maximize the social media component as much as you can to where it's like, okay, even if you're on vacation, you're going to see a picture of us, we're going to be talking about it. You're going to see us doing something. We're going to make sure that like we haven't left your mind. We're still around. So I think that's the biggest thing is like always try to help each other out and just try to make the most out of every platform that we have, because like we're not just limited to the podcast. Like we're all over the place. So we could do a bunch of different things and just try to figure out other ways to like make sure that we're doing stuff, even if it may seem like we're a little busy. We can do the little things in order to help ourselves out, make sure that we're still staying afloat and still like resonating with our audience.
Awesome, I love it. So all hands on deck approach. Step up when you need to step up and just get it done, right? So I want to congratulate you all on your 30th episode. Y'all have that's definitely a accomplishment. It may seem like a small feat, but from where you all have started to now, I think that's something definitely to celebrate. So I guess I would ask, what's your most memorable episode, if you can think to date? What's the one where you were like, yeah, we killed it, like that was,
Probably episode 30, maybe one of the really good ones.
And you can only choose one.
I say the one we did before this recent episode is one where the second round of political debates, Democratic debates, just came out. Our transitions from going from the debate. What else did we cover that episode? We covered the debate. We covered some album that dropped. I'm pretty sure too.
Can't remember it.
Can't even remember. But our flow between four different completely unrelated topics. I'm blanking on specific topics. But we definitely hit politics. We hit sports. We hit music. We kind of embodied Black culture all throughout the episode. So that was one thing. That was probably one of my most favorites. Anytime we were able to transition and you can hear everybody clearly. And we were having some mic issues a while back too, where one of the mics weren't really picking up as well. So that one, we finally figured the sound out again, and the sound was perfect. So it's just like a lot of little things added up to make like a full picture. So that was nice. Yeah.
Man, I gotta say, my favorite guy be Dolph Shades.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. I can't remember which number it is. We got this episode.
Man, that was I think the best part about the episode was that it, like, literally, we went on a tangent about like somebody, like a basketball player that really had nothing to do with what we was even talking about. But it was organic and it was fun and it was, embodied, hanging with your bros and talking about something. So it was just, I still listen to it to this day. I was just like, yo, like, we really Dolph Shades.
That was a good one.
But
for me, I would say the one that we just did, episode 30, that was one of my favorite ones that we did so far, because it's just like, in that one we talked about Jay-Z, like we just said. So we were talking about Jay-Z, the NFL thing, and I think that one was just really showing just our differences of opinion and just how we all kind of view things and just the different lenses that we all just take a look at with things and just like, oh, okay, really, it's just not one perspective on here. It's just a bunch of different things.
It got a little heated.
Yeah, it got a little heated between Aaron and Darren. And so, I mean, if you want to go watch that one, that's the most recent one. It's very important to go listen to. But yeah, I think that was probably my favorite episode just in general. I think that was just like a really fun one for me. I think I just liked everything that we talked about, and I just really liked the dialogue that we had. It was really fun.
Okay, awesome. So let's see, to kind of wrap it up, I mean, where do you see Hentations going from here? I mean, do y'all want to get into being president of events? Where do you, 5 years, 10 years from now, what do you want Hentations to be, and what do you want people to think about Hentations?
So I'll talk about we guys. I guess when we were at a couple of events, like I remember we were at Top Golf, and we kind of talked about we want to get more to, community outreach, philanthropic. Excuse me, philanthropical. But stuff like that. Definitely want to get out in the community and show our appreciation, and so that would be something that for as an organization we want to do as a podcast. But
just to build up that, definitely, because our image of having 4 young Black guys who kind of are educated and know about these array of topics, there's something we want to show, like young Black teens and young Black kids in particular, like to have that outlet to be able to have conversations, to pursue your education, but also not be afraid to kind of pursue a platform that you're interested in. We kind of, a lot of times starting is the hardest part. And just like at first it seems so intimidating. Where are we going to get these mics from? Like, are we going to record it? Are we going to do this? Like, do we have to trademark something?
You overthink it.
Yeah, you overthink it, and people end up getting scared from starting something that can end up blowing up for real. So definitely like inspiring young people to kind of take that leap.
Right.
That's something that I'm hoping to do. And also outside of that, like you said before, kind of charity events, using that same image model, like whether we going to events too, and speaking to kind of have a live podcast or something that it's definitely on my list for the near future, and something we all, I'm sure, are interested in, and more generally kind of just expanding our base.
Do you think that's in conjunction with like what makes you all you? Like what makes Hentations different? You are young Black men, trying to represent in the community, trying to be positive role models for people to come after you, or children to come after you. I mean, and there's a lot of people, I don't want to say it's oversaturated, but it's kind of hard to find your niche and find what differentiates you from the next group. So would you say that those things that you kind of touched on go into what sets you apart, or are there some more things that you want to kind of include?
I mean, the biggest thing for us that we like continuously have said that we just wanted to say just like sets us apart from everybody, just versatility. That's like what we feel like is like our biggest thing. Like, yeah, everybody can talk about multiple topics, but everybody can't do it like us, and everybody doesn't have what we have. Everybody doesn't have our views. Everybody isn't us. So we're just like, we can really do a lot of things, and we try to make that as present as possible. Not to toot our own horn, but we try to like make that as present as possible on our podcast. So it's like that is like the one thing that we really do try to take strength in. Like that is like really important.
And I think something different about us in particular too, because like with a lot of these podcasts, a lot of people are just kind of having a conversation, but not necessarily wearing that responsibility of what you're saying and how you're looked at when you say certain things. So us having like being responsible in what we say and kind of being sensitive to specific groups is another thing that kind of combined with the versatility sets us kind of apart.
Yeah, we're not just hunting for like shock value.
Yeah,
that's
right.
We're not just hunting for that viral moment's great. Don't get us wrong, but we're not just out here hunting for that. We're actually like trying to be responsible with our voices. We're actually taking time to think about what we're saying, and it's like, oh, okay. Maybe I shouldn't say that. We're actually learning we're growing on the podcast.
Right.
Okay, we've actually grown.
That's a cool thing. The audience can see us grow. You know what I'm saying? And
that's awesome. Well, I've definitely, seen you all grown, and I've heard your story, and just, seen your journey, and I believe that you all definitely have something good under your belt, and it's definitely going to go far. So with that being said, that's Hentations for you, and I know you all's website is under construction, so we're definitely going to look forward to that. And I'm sure all your content and everything will be transferred there. Okay. But just tell them how they can reach you if they want to, view your podcast, follow you, get more information, provide feedback, provide topics. How can you be reached?
Well, y'all can check us out. All our socials, Instagram and Twitter is @Hentations_. Should we spell it out? HENTATIONS.
Show your jersey, bro.
_. Yeah, rep the shirt. Might say y'all look down.
Yeah. Hey,
so check it out on social. We're also on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube at Hentations Podcast. Yes, sir. So
and definitely, we're on like almost every streaming platform: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. I got
Google
niggas
Play
support.
too. I see them kids on.
Oh, okay, there you go. You know that one. So yeah, if you listen to YouTube, if you want to listen to us, we're around. You can find us almost anywhere. Hentations. We have a unique brand name. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, well, that'll do it. It's, of course, your girl, Zany Nicole, on the Happy Hour Report, where we always give it to you straight, no chasing. Till next time.